Good morning, everyone. This is Leah Dixon in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, Canada. I am joining you this morning for my regular Tuesday morning Facebook Live. Sorry for showing up a little bit late. I was saying 9-ish because no matter how prepared I am with technology, it always seems to do something odd at the last second for me. Today it wouldn't connect to my phone. So I am here finally. I am so glad that some of you are able to join me. I'm just going to put a comment here in the comment box, so hopefully I'll be able to see all of your comments as well. And I hope you guys are able to find me this morning. All right, so today I'm going to be creating with the Color and Contour bundle. This is one of the new bundles from our brand new annual catalog. And so here, I'm just going to switch you guys over to my other screen so you can see what I am creating with today. And so this is the Color and Contour stamp set. And then it comes with a beautiful set of dies. We've got this awesome, it's not even really stitched, it's got like little dots. So like a polka dot scallop, and then all these great scalloped rectangles, and then the dies to cut out the two flowers in the stamp set. So it's a really, really beautiful bundle that we have here. And, oh, good morning, Norma. Good morning, Jacqueline. So yeah, this is what I'm going to be creating with. Now, I have lots of cards ready for you guys for the week that use these beautiful scalloped rectangles and the scalloped edging, and you've probably seen some of these on some of the puffin cards I created as well. Today we're going to be using just one of the dies and getting in depth a little bit with some other tools in our catalog. All right, so I'm going to move our stamp set out of the way, and we're going to be using the You're Absolutely Amazing sentiment today. There's some other really nice ones on here, though, the thank yous and the so very happy for you. Some really nice stuff, but that's the one we're going to be using today. Okay, so to get started, I have all my cardstock pieces cut up here. I also have some gold trim, and this is from, it's actually a 2-pack. It's gold and silver trim that comes together. And so we're going to be using this. I'm going to start with, actually, sorry, I'm going to start with this piece, and we're going to do some stamping of our flower. So I'm going to move all my other things out of the way, and here we go. Oh, good morning, Nancy. Oh, if you don't have the dies, Jacqueline, you're definitely going to want them, especially after seeing today's card. So, I have our flower here, and I'm going to ink it up with some black memento. There we go. Oh, yeah, it was actually, I missed it in the catalog, but it was on the pre-order, Jacqueline. So that's where I saw it. There we go. And I wasn't sold on the stamp set. It was the dies that made me want to buy the set. And then now that I have it, I love the stamp set so much. All right, so we've just inked that up in black memento, and now we're going to color it in using our blends. And today I am really going to be using a lot of the polished pink. This is one of our new in colors, and it is just fabulous. It's actually going to be, I think, the second color in my in color club. If you actually haven't signed up for that yet, it's probably a bit late to get your supplies for our actual meeting date, although you never know, shipping's actually gotten a lot better. But you can still join us, watch the first month on replay, and then be on track for the other 4 months of my In Color Club. If you go to stampinwithleah.ca, you're actually able to see all of my upcoming classes, and this is one of them. All right, so here we go. I just colored with the dark polished pink first, and then I'm going over top, even over top of the dark, and then into all the spots that I left white, I'm coloring with the light polished pink. Now, there is a stamp that you can use to color in these flowers, and so it would be like a 2-step stamping, and it would be one stamp, color them all in. but it's just not the look I wanted for today because I'm going to be adding color to my stem as well. So now I've got my soft succulent blend, and this is the light one, and I'm going to go over like all of the stem, all of the little bits, all of the leaves, and I'm being quite messy about it. I'm not trying to stay in any particular lines, just trying to add that color onto it. All right, so we're going to use these again in a little bit, so I'm just going to put them to the side. And now that we've got that colored in, we're going to grab the mini boss. I'm going to get plate 1, 2, and my second 2. And I'm going to put this piece of cardstock down on plate 2. Now, when I use this, somebody asked me if there's a trick. So I put plate 1 down, I stagger plate 2 in just a little bit. Then I put down my dies. And you'd want to try to not put these like head on so that like you're going over a speed bump. So slightly angled. And then plate 2 I'm going to put down so that it's staggered back a little bit from my other plate 2. And when I do that, I find I have no problem feeding everything into the mini boss. All right, there we go. So we've got that all cut out. And voila. And I love that it even cuts out like the little centerpiece. I can save that for later. I'll put my die away so I don't lose it. All right. So here we go. Look at me go. I'm putting things back where they actually belong. Shocker. Okay, so with that stamping done, we are now going to bring in some pieces for our card. So I'm going to bring in my card base. I have a piece of our polished pink 6x6 designer series paper here, and it's going to get eventually layered onto a 4 by 5 1/4 white layer that's actually going to go onto the front of our card. All right, so what I want to do right now is I'm going to play with some gilded leafing. So I've got here a piece of vellum that's cut just less than 5 1/4, and I don't even know how wide it was. It was just a scrap I found in the bin. Oh, 2 inches wide. All right. So I just cut this at just slightly less than 5 1/4 because that's the same size as the DSP that I've got here. And then I've got a circle from our layering circles, and I embossed it with the Tasteful Textiles. Now I'm just gently placing these on my card because I want to get a sense of where I'm going to do my next stamping. So it's going to kind of be like a little magic trick here where we're going to do some stamping, and then I'm going to get ready to stamp, and then I'm going to move my papers out of the way to actually do the stamping. So I want this little splotchy thing up here in the top corner. So now that I've figured out where I want that, I'm going to move everything away and stamp, and I'm stamping with Versamark, and I'm going to stamp as well down here in my bottom corner. Okay, so I've stamped twice with Versamark, and now I'm going to move everything out of the way because this next part is going to get messy, guys. So what we're going to do, you can't see it now because I've got Versamark on there, which is like basically invisible. I am going to bring in a scrap piece of paper, and I want a removable scrap, not just my background, because I'm using some powder here. This is our heat and stick powder. Okay, and you use this just like embossing powder, so you sprinkle it over top of your image, except it's a little bit, I don't know, grainier than our embossing powder. Like it's almost more like sugar or salt. It's like super fine sugar. And then the reason I used a scrap paper is so then I can like pour the excess back into my bottle. I don't want to mix this up with white embossing powder. It will not do the same thing. Oh, hi, Catherine. Oh, they are absolutely gorgeous stamps, Jacqueline. You're right. All right, so now heat and stick powder is a bit fussier than embossing powder in that you can overheat it and then it won't be sticky. So what I like to do when I'm using heat and stick powder is I do keep my heat tool quite far away, and I actually heat from underneath instead of from on top. I'm not sure if I can do this on screen, so we'll give it a try, but I might end up off screen while I'm heating this, but I'm heating it just until it goes from being granular and white to being clear and glossy, and not a second longer or you'll overheat it and it won't stick. All right, so here we go. All right, so you can see there on my designer series paper now, we can't see that white powder anymore. It's gone all glossy. And what I'm going to do now is bring in some Gilded Leafing. Now this stuff can get messy. I do have a second container that we'll be bringing out later, but right now I'm just going to grab leaves, and kind of put them down on top of where I see my shiny bits. Okay, and I'm being quite generous because I have a container where I put my excess. Trying to put it back into this jar would be almost impossible. This stuff gets so big. So you can see that my Gilded Leafing is sticking to, oh, that was a big piece. Oh, wow. See how it kind of like explodes and expands? This stuff can be really, really fun to use if you also want to just grab like a big bucket and dip this in. All right, so I think that's enough leafing for there. So I'm going to close that up. And now, when I said I had a big container, I meant I have a big container, much bigger, that I do kind of the work in. Oh, I'm glad that'll help, Jacqueline. Yeah, it's really tricky stuff. If you overheat it, it's done. All right, so I'm going to throw these bits in here. Now, you will get Gilded Leafing everywhere, even when you're trying to be careful. All right, oh, and more is flying away. So this is why I have a larger container. I know some people who just keep all of theirs in their large container. I don't. I just keep like the excess bits. So I have like the little bits in here. And eventually that'll become my real container. So now I have a sponge dauber. I know some people use like a strong bristled paintbrush, but I like using the sponge dauber. So I've really adhered this with my fingers, pressing it down onto where I have sticky bits. And then to remove the excess, so I'm just going to tap that off. So I still have a whole bunch stuck to my page. I'm going to come in with my sponge dauber and I'm going to gently but firmly rub over top. And what's going to happen is that's going to help release all of the gold that isn't stuck to the heat and stick powder. Okay. So you can do this with fine, oh, gold leafing everywhere. You can do this with fine designed stamps and stuff, but I do find that it's not a perfect look, so I don't tend to use it on solid images. I tend to use it for things that can have a little bit of, I don't know what's the right word, like imperfection to it. So with this, because it's splatter, there can be an imperfection to what's happening here. I can have it in places that I hadn't intended, or it can be missing from places, and it's not going to be noticeable. If you were trying to do something like actually like do an outline of a whole image or something, it's a lot trickier. So when you start playing with Gilded Leafing, play with things that have that ability to be imperfect and still look good. All right, so now I'm just going to take all my excess and pop it in here. And you'll see floating around my room, I have Gilded Leafing everywhere now. So, oh well, it's a craft room. All right, and then this sponge dauber is only ever used for gilded leafing. So I'm just going to go put it with my gilded leafing stuff, and then I never end up with ink on my projects that I didn't intend. Okay, so that is kind of like the wow factor of our card today, is just that little gilded leafing. I don't know, it's a small thing, but it makes such a difference. And if you're wondering, well, what's the difference between gilded leafing and, say, embossing with gold? Embossing with gold has less of a shine to it. You still get the gold, but you don't get that real sparkle like you get with the gilded leafing. And that's what I really wanted, was sparkle. All right, so now I'm going to adhere my vellum, but I don't want adhesive showing, so I'm really just going to put a little bit of Seal Plus where I know it's going to be hidden by the other elements that are going on my card, so kind of center on my card. And now, because I've done that, I've got to be really careful when I put this down that it's where I want it before I press it down. There we go. Because you can see the adhesive shows through, so I want to be able to cover that up. And that Seal Plus is strong enough that this vellum isn't going anywhere, and I'm going to layer enough other things on that I'm not going to worry about it getting floppy on my card. Yes, don't do things to punish yourself, Jacqueline. That's right. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. Okay. So we are going to do a little bit of actual embossing today as well. So I have a piece of black cardstock here. It's just 2 inches by 1 inch, and this is where we're going to stamp our sentiment, "You're absolutely amazing." So we're going to grab our Versamark again, and I do like to do this one vertically. I just find that easier for lining up my words. This one's quite nice too because the top sentiment is very straight, so it makes it very easy to line it up. Okay, so we've got that done, and now this is just our basic quickie white embossing powder. I use it so much I just keep it in an open tray in my craft room. Don't want to mess around trying to grab it later. So you can see I didn't use my embossing buddy, so I've got embossing powder everywhere, which is fine. I think I also ran my fingers across the front of this, which did not help. So I'm just taking a paintbrush, and I'm actually using the handle of the paintbrush to tap the back, and that gets most of the excess off. And then it's quite a fine tip brush, so I'm just going to come in and brush away some of the rest. Once I've done a bit of brushing, I can flip it over and tap again. Yes, definitely less defined images. It works really well. That the Gilded Leafing works really well with any adhesive. You don't have to have the heat and stick powder. Oh, darn it, I just brushed away too much. So you don't have to have the heat and stick powder. You could literally put down like a piece of Terran tape and then Gilded Leafing onto it. You could put down a thin layer of glue or some glue dots or mini glue dots. Anything sticky that Gilded Leafing is going to stick to. So I just like the heat and stick because then I can get it into, you know, the splatter image I wanted and stuff like that. But if you're just going for dots or stripes or even just like a smudge, you could put some glue on a sponge and smudge it across your page and then put Gilded Leafing on that. Anything that's going to be tacky like that will work. Okay. So now that we've got that embossed and I've cleaned up my big mess that I made, we're going to heat this up. So that one I'm not worried about overheating, and it's a black paper, so I just heated it from the front. If you're working with white paper and embossing, sometimes I'll heat that from the back too, just in case, like, you know, you can sometimes toast your paper. I don't want to do that on the side that's going to show, so I'll emboss from the back. All right, so now that was 1 by 2, so I've got a piece here that's 1 1/8 by 2 1/8, and we're just going to attach our sentiment to this. Oh, I'm so glad you're getting time to enjoy life again, Jacqueline, and stamp and do all those great things. And I know you guys have a big move ahead of you, but you know, you'll make it through that as well, and life is good. All right, so I just used some liquid glue to attach that. I like the liquid glue, especially when I'm working with only a 1/8 border, so that I can kind of squish things around and make sure that they get lined up nicely. Okay, so now with that done, we're going to bring our circle back in and decide which side I want showing. I think I want, not that it really matters, they're quite similar on both sides. So I'm going to decide where I want that circle so that I can decide where to put my sentiment. And I'm going to just put a dab of glue on one side. There we go. So I want my sentiment and my circle. Now there is a bit of a pattern to this Tasteful Textiles, so I am kind of trying to line it up so that I have all my lines going horizontally. So I just put some glue on the back of that. Now I'm going to flip the whole thing over and put dimensionals everywhere. So I've got a dimensional going onto my pink, and then like probably 3 onto my white circle. There we go. And so I'm trying to minimize how much gold I'm covering. Didn't do all that gold leafing for nothing. Okay, so there we have that on there. Now we're going to bring our flower back that we stamped at the beginning, and I'm going to put dimensionals on the backs of both of the flowers. The lower flowers, not the upper one, because it's going to hang off. So I'd either have to double dimensional it or just leave it be. All right, so I'm going to line that up so that my leaf is kind of at the bottom of the circle. I kind of like to hide those and line them up. It just, I don't know, it's appealing to me. And now somewhere I had a piece, there it is. I had a piece of gold trim. This is probably far too big, but it was a scrap that I had laying around. And I cut it for something else and then decided not to use it. So we're going to use it here. So I just tied one little knot, not really even a knot, just like one loop around. And then I'm going to do my double bunny ears and shorten that up. Okay. And I get a nice little bow happening here right on the stem. So I do love it when I can actually physically attach bows to cards instead of having to use like mini glue dots or something to attach them. All right, and then I'm going to leave these fairly long. I'm going to trim them right down just at the bottom of the pink. There we go. Now I have 2 scraps to have in my stamp room instead of one long one. All right, so we're getting close to finishing this up. We just have some finishing touches here. So we're going to use some liquid glue and attach this to a piece of basic white that is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. So it's my normal matte layer. Oh, thank you, Jacqueline. So there we go. So this is my normal matte that I'm putting this piece onto. So again, this polished pink was just 1/8 of an inch smaller. All right, and then we're going to use dimensionals to attach this to our card front. So let's grab my dimensionals. And this is quite a heavy card front, so we're going to use a lot of them. 1 in each corner, and then how about 2 across there, and 1 in the middle, just for good luck. All right, so we're going to peel all these off, and then I'm going to show you a a fun little thing to do with some paper scraps to decorate the inside. Okay, so this is my hard part, is lining it up. Not bad. Okay, so before we go to the inside, we have one last thing to do. I'm going to add some in-color gems to this to decorate the front, and I'm going to bring in some soft succulent. So these are the soft succulent gems. Oh, come on. Da-da-da. Oh, flip over. I don't normally have problems with these ones, but today he's given me trouble. There we go. I was just about to grab my Take Your Pick tool to rescue this one, but we got it. All right. So there we go. Some gems on the front. Those are the in-color gems, just to decorate that. So now when I cut this piece of paper, because the Designer Series paper comes in a 6x6, I cut this at 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and what it left me with was this little strip of paper to make up the remaining, like up to the 6 inches. So I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do with that? I could save it for another card, or I could use it to decorate the inside of this card, because this card is going to somebody really, truly fabulous. I'm getting ready for year end and making cards for like my EA and my teaching partner and my cohort partner and all of that. So I want these cards to be extra special. So instead of just a white inside, we're actually going to layer this up. I've put a 3 7/8 by 5 1/8 white layer onto a 5 1/4 by 4 polished pink layer, and then I'm going to take this scrap, because let's be real, it's going to go into the bin and I won't use it. So I might as well use it to decorate this. I'm going to come down here and put that across the bottom. And then we're going to add a little flower in here. So I had kept those blends out because I said we're going to use them again. Well, here we go. We've got the tiniest little bud from that stamp set. And we're going to come in here and stamp that right there. And actually, while I have it out, I'm going to grab my envelope, and I'm going to stamp my envelope with that little bud as well. I'm just doing this way. We'll do two on our card front. There we go. Okay. So with that done, we're going to come in and I'm going to color these buds. And I love how quick and easy it is to color these, because it's just that dark polished pink, light polished pink. Oh, I know, Jacqueline, so many people need that little encouragement, that little boost. It can really make somebody's day. I love sending out happy mail, and I love making stuff for my team at work. All right, and then just a quick soft succulent, like we're talking just super fast and easy there. Okay, so that is our little decoration. Now this piece is going to go right inside our card, so we're going to grab our liquid glue again and put the finishing touch on this card. So this is a little bit more of a detailed card than I typically make, but I had lots of good inspiration. The idea came from the Spot Challenge. It's a Case the Designer, and the designer is My Stamp Garden. I'm blanking right now on the actual designer's name, but her blog is mystampgarden.blogspot. And so this was a case of one of her cards. She used a different stamp set and different color scheme. So case and selectively edit is what I was doing. So copy and selectively edit. And so this is what I came up with by casing the designer. And yeah, so mystampgarden.blogspot. And I am so pleased with how this card turned out. I can't wait to give it to one of the teachers on staff. They are all so amazing. And yeah, so that is my card for today. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Thanks for keeping me company, Jacqueline, and chatting. Oh, thank you, Norma. Yeah, I'm really, really happy with how this card turned out. I love the gilded leafing just as that extra little accent. So I hope you guys try this out. I did put a link to the bundle in my description of this video, so if you'd like to grab that for yourself. And yeah, if you are a person who received a catalog from me this month, don't forget that you do have a $5 off coupon if you place an order before May 25th, and you can use the host code just listed here on my screen right now. Or just message me if you forget the host code or are not sure. And yeah, I hope you guys all have a fabulous, fabulous Tuesday. The sun is shining here, so I'm out to go enjoy that, and I'll see you all next week. Oh, actually, sorry, I won't see you all next week. Well, I will, but if you'd like to join me before next week, I'm actually doing just kind of a social Zoom this Friday. It's a bring your own kit kind of night. I'm going to have my paper pumpkin there and playing around with it, creating samples to post on the weekend, alternatives with this awesome new batter up paper pumpkin. And yeah, it's just going to kind of be a hangout thing. So I'll post the Zoom link on my page sometime on Friday, and then feel free to join us there. All right, take care, everyone.